Now do
What
it.
is up? You like that? You see that little countdown? And instead of the, oh, hi, there's my buddy Shep, and there's all of you. How you guys
How
doing?
does that goes way back, man. Remember that's back in black and white TV stuff, right? Rabbit ears. 5, 4.
People don't get it. Look at that. There it is. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Fantastic. Hey, so glad you could join us. By Shep, you know what? Can I talk about that? Because I think Blake and I talked about that, like one of our early shows, and you were a guy who lived through it. All right. There was a time there was channel 2, there was channel 4, there was channel 7, there was channel 9, there was channel 20, there was channel 50, 56, and
56.
62.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And 62.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And the greatest thing on earth was like on a Sunday when I could adjust the rabbit ears. And how would you, it was in an antenna and you could affix like some aluminum foil on there. And if you turned it in a certain way, I could watch a Cleveland Browns game. Now, granted, it looked like it was snowing, but I could watch a Cleveland Browns game at like 1:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday. And if I turn on channel 13 and turn the rabbit ears just so, I might get a Cincinnati Bengals game too.
Wow, you got Ken Anderson and Brian Sipe in the same weekend.
Right? But that was, and it's so funny because like I tell my kids that stuff and there's just, it's like when they're talking about all their technology stuff and so TikTok, libs, all this stuff. And I'm just,
hey, how about the fact you used to get up and change the channel? And of course, my dad, God love him, everything had to be made in America. So we had a Philco TV. Remember those, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Philco. Dad, why do we have a Philco? Because it's made in America. That's why. Had to get up, click, press 2, click, press 4. Click, press 7. While you're up, give me a bowl of ice cream, will you? But I'm just at the TV and the kitchen's over there. That's all right. You're up. I'm not. Go get me a bowl of ice cream.
Yeah, that was, my old man, the old cop. I would tell these stories to my kids and he'd go, you know what? I had my own remote control. That big lug right there. That was my remote. Get up and turn on channel 4. The Broncos are on. Get up and turn channel 2. The Redskins are on. That was my dad's remote. And he'd brag about it. They'd tell me I didn't have a remote. Of course I had a remote. I'd throw something in your head. You didn't turn the channel for me.
How about chores, man? I mean, I'd cut the grass, trim the bushes, trim the driveway, and pick up the yard. I'd say, Dad, I did all this. And he'd go, raise the flag. In other words, who cares? That's what you're supposed to do. Today, you hear kids go, yeah, I pay my son or my daughter to do this. What do you mean you pay them? What do you mean pay? Sean, I could have been a rich kid. I could have been really rich.
Yeah.
If I had just said, of course, if I had said to my dad, hey, are you going to pay me to cut the grass? I'd have got kicked in the slaps. That's what happened. I told that story to Jack Morris one time. We're in the booth, and I said to him, raise the flag. Because Jack said something, yeah, that was a really good open we just did. I said, raise the flag. He goes, I don't understand. So I told him the story. After that, man, he latched onto that like you wouldn't believe. He loved that phrase, raise the flag.
That was, we got these sprinkler systems now and everything. And my dad was like, I always wish I had a better sprinkler system. I go, Dad, you didn't have a sprinkler system. You're damn right you didn't, because you couldn't do a damn thing with the hose. It's Saturday afternoon. I want to go play baseball down at the park or something. My dad would just point. That's all. I knew what it meant. Yeah, like a trained gosh damn dog. I better go out there and water the lawn. Standing out there, 11 years old, like it's spraying the lawn down.
Were you True Green? Yeah. Or you get that sprinkler, that kids love to run through. What was that phase?
Yep.
Hey, let's go run through the sprinkler. Oh, you're not rich enough to have a pool. Oh, the pool you actually put up and take down every single year. It's not like it's an in-ground pool, right? But you run through the sprinkler. All right, now move it over there. That's enough for that part of the grass. Move it over there. You go running through it over there. Okay, doing a really good thing. Oh, by the way, did you put the seeds down? Did you put the fertilizer down? No, I didn't. Start all over again.
Don't you? I always promised myself that one day, I used to joke about it on the air. I was like, I cannot wait to be that guy. I just want to be the angry guy sitting on my porch with a massive blower just yelling at kids for no reason.
Right.
Just as some kid walks by and get off me, you hippie. And then I got to call people hippies because that was my dad's favorite line. Hippie. So I have to throw hippie in there, but I'm not there yet, Shep. I haven't graduated to that level yet.
Have you worn black socks with shorts?
Oh yeah, come on.
Come on, that's the worst. You want to embarrass your kids? Do that. Go out there in the front lawn with shorts on and wear black socks. Oh my God, Dad, please, whatever. My favorite is going to the restaurant. You sit down at the table and you get the waiter or waitress and you say, by the way, what's your name? Oh, okay, it's Sean. All right. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I'll have a Labatt Blue. Okay, great. Comes back. Hey, Sean, by the way, what's the best appetizer? And my kids are just like, why do you keep calling him Sean? What do you want me to say? That's his name. Oh my God, Dad. Instead it's like, oh, by the way, Sean. And you see my kids go,
it's like those progressive commercials. Like seriously, we're turning into our parents. Like really, that's what's happening. By the way, hi, good morning to all of you. I'm glad Shep and I are just having a conversation for two. You're more than welcome to chime in. Jason, morning, gents. Happy Friday. Hope everything is well. Thank you, Jason. Mark said you need a save from Lion. Fifth goal was a dagger. Show me a hot goalie. I'll show you a hot goalie. I'll show you a smart coach. You know what? Two devastating losses last night, Shep.
What Blake says, wait, black socks are cool. Yeah, two devastating losses. Yeah, right.
Hey, tip of the cap to Michigan. Seriously, I'm going to say it again. I think even a month ago, there were people that were wondering aloud if they even made the tournament. I mean, seriously, there were people having that conversation. Brandon Arado got them playing well. They ran into a buzzsaw. BC is an absolute wagon. They just are. And when it started to rain, Shep, it started to pour yesterday. Yeah. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. With the top four teams in the country, top four scoring teams in the country, all made the Frozen Four.
Mm-hmm.
BC, you're right. Offensive juggernaut, right? They're so good. Gauthier is unbelievable. Anyway, do you think that is a trend that could carry over to the NHL? Or do you think defense just takes longer to grow at the collegiate level?
I think it takes longer to grow. I really, truly do. And I'll tell you why. I think what's interesting about the Stanley Cup playoff, and already for the most part, last night, notwithstanding, you see teams starting to batten down the hatches. I think the Caps Red Wing game was a perfect example of that. Was playoff hockey. That was playoff hockey. That game was playoff hockey. Yeah. The Caps didn't really exert themselves too much offensively. Honestly, when you look at it, they weren't doing much. They were doing all the little things to ensure that they didn't give up quality scoring chances. They were blocking.
Washington, you're saying?
Yeah, the Caps.
Yeah, because I thought Detroit carried the play there. I thought Detroit was the better team.
1,000%. Yeah. And when they weathered the storm, they waited for their opportunity. And to me, that's playoff hockey. And there's a reason why, every year in the playoff, for the people out there, and Gordy Brown, the Motor City Rockers coach, brought this up last night. I thought it was a fantastic point. For those of you that dabble in gambling, and I am not one of them, but I do pay attention to the numbers. It's amazing, Shep, how you watch the over-unders, like here, go like that immediately when the playoffs start.
And that's not to say it's boring hockey, because it's not. It's just a different way of. It's less risky. Is that fair to say? Yeah. I think you have to pick your spots in playoff hockey. And I'm not a gambler either, Shohei Ohtani, but I'm just saying when you're in the postseason, you're less likely to give up the odd man rushes. The good teams anyway. Yeah. So and of course it helps to have a really good goalie, which kind of goes back to, what Mark was saying when you lie in that fifth goal. I mean, you just can't do it. There's something to be said about coming back from 2 goals down, not once, but twice, and showing some gumption and heart and grit and all that, sandpaper and all that stuff. But at some point, and you and I have talked about this during these podcasts a number of times, you got to win.
Yeah.
And it's just, I thought the goal by Ovechkin, the second goal in the game against Washington was, dare I say, a bad goal, short side near the end of the period. And I didn't get a chance to watch the Wings game last night because I was at LCA watching the Pistons get their doors blown off again. And that's what I thought you meant, another tough loss, not 7-33 at home. But it's just, it's just, I think people want it so desperately that the Wings make the playoffs. And we've come so far from where we once were that if they don't make the playoffs, what will it be, Sean? 8 or 9 straight years?
Going back to 16. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it.
So it's 8 straight years. That's a tough pill to swallow when you're used to having the success.
You know what it comes down to, Shep, and I know we've talked a lot about this, but I think the closer that we come to the point where they're not going to make the playoffs, and I think I was reading something today, there's about a 15% chance. It's not impossible. There are some things that have to go their way, but it's certainly not impossible.
Because of what you said, by the way. Because you said it's the regulation. We're looking, people look at the wild card, right? And they see the ties.
It's huge.
All right. And they see the number of points. Work your way past, you said this last week, work your way past the points. Look at regulation wins, right? And that's where they're falling short. Philadelphia's got 29. Washington has 29. And Detroit has 27, I believe. And Pittsburgh's got 31, I think.
Yeah. So they can't catch Pittsburgh. Yeah. They can't. And again, I don't think people take this into consideration, Shep. If you're tied, you're going to lose. I mean, if by some strange chance they make up that point with Pittsburgh, guess what? Pittsburgh's got the tiebreaker, and I don't think the average person understands that, because I've said it a few times on Twitter, and it's funny because people said, well, wait a second, what are you talking about? They have 38 wins right now. Pittsburgh has 37 wins, and I said, no, it's RW. Look at that thing on there. I think the NHL, quite frankly, could do a better job of letting people know that, but yeah, but that's what it comes down to. Shep, I think people are victims of their own expectations with this Red Wing team. I really do. Where did most people pick this team this year? And I didn't talk to you at the beginning of the year about it. I honestly thought just on the outside looking in, like if they snuck in, I wouldn't have been shocked. But if I had to pick, I would have said 9, maybe 10, just on the outside looking in. Boy, the way that people are talking right now, I have to say it again. I think they're victims of their own expectations with this team. I get it. You want this team to be in. You're desirous of this team to be in. But I don't think those were the expectations for the team this year. And I keep hearing words like collapse and gag and failure. And
that's not fair. That's not fair.
I'm glad to hear. I don't think it's fair at all. I really don't.
No, but you and I used to do shows, and I used to hear you say this phrase quite a bit. Expectations change.
No question.
I don't care what your expectations were at the beginning of the year. When this team started to play well at certain times and you saw what they were capable of, because I've never been a big believer in preseason rankings. And the reason I'm not a big believer is because we don't know the team or the circumstance in which they're playing when we make our quote unquote predictions.
Yep.
You need to see a team. College football is a good example. College basketball is a really good example. All these things, right? We didn't know what the Red Wings were going to look like. I mean, when people were making those predictions and those expectations, they didn't have Patrick Kane yet.
Yeah.
I think things change. I think expectations change. My expectations definitely changed. I thought this team was good enough to be a playoff team. No disrespect to anybody else, whether it be Pittsburgh, the Islanders, whomever. I thought this team was good enough, and I've been disappointed with the results. And I think that's a fair critique of this team. Now, I would remind people, we brought up Pittsburgh. They've got a tough 3 games left. They play good, really good teams. They play Boston next. I think they play Nashville. And is it the Rangers or the Islanders they have at the end of the season? I think it's the Islanders. Anyway, there's no layup there. While Detroit gets Montreal, sorry, Sean, when Detroit gets Montreal a couple of times, the scheduling gods are somewhat in their favor against Pittsburgh. I forget about Washington's final 3 games. But my point is, I believe your expectations should have changed with this team. I think that's a compliment to this team that they forced you to change your expectations, and that right now they're not meeting what changed my expectations during the season.
Capitals have Lightning, Bruins, Flyers for what it's
Oh,
worth.
yeah. See, there you go. I mean,
yeah.
what do the Flyers have left? Who do the Flyers have left?
Death, despair, and petulance. After watching them against the Habs the other night, that was disgusting. Absolutely. Yeah. I honest to goodness, it was Shep. I even texted you. It was like, I think they sent a message. I think they sent the message to Torts. I really did. Flyers only have a couple left. It's Devils and Caps. So, they're definitely up against it. Mario said, this is fair. He said, Sean, no offense, but I think you're being too kind to the Red Wings. It's been 7 years. It's actually been 8 since they were in the playoffs. It was 2016. When you sign players like Justin Hall and Andrew Kopp to inflated salaries, that's on them. I know that people don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You cannot count the last couple years of the Holland regime. You just can't. You cannot count that. I think the clock started, the 5-year plan clock started almost 5 years ago. We're a week away from 5 years ago. It was April 19th, 2019 when Steve Yzerman got hired.
I don't care. I don't care.
No, and I get that. But I think
I'm tired of the 5-year thing. You told me this last week, and I'm not speaking out of turn. Reportedly, Yzerman went in and laid into this team pretty good with the coaches. What does that tell you? If a general manager is willing to go in there and give his peace of mind to an entire team and staff, it means his expectations changed. It means he thinks they should be in the postseason. I don't care about the 5 years. I'm not talking about a playoff. I'm not talking about a Stanley Cup. They're not going to beat Boston. They're not going to beat the Rangers. We get all that. I'm talking about getting in the damn playoffs. I don't care if it's 3 years or 5 years. When you're spending the money on the players he's spending the money on, and he's making the investments in certain players that we believe, based on what he has told us or he has shown us, that they're good enough to bridge that gap, then damn it, they should be in.
I think we have to go back to the beginning if we're going to quote Steve Yzerman, and his quote from the beginning, and I loved it, was, this is not about getting back into the playoffs.
Right.
This is about getting this franchise to the point that we all grew accustomed to. And I think we know exactly what he meant by that. Shep, would you like to make the playoffs? Absolutely. I'd love to see the Red Wings in the playoffs again. I would. I hope that in the next few days that they knock off the Leafs and they knock off the Habs twice. Montreal's playing really well. They're a young team, and that might be easier said than done. But with that being said, okay, if they don't, I don't care. I don't think it changes anything long term. I really don't. Would I rather see him in? Of course, it's been since 2016. It's been 8 years. But at the end of the day, it isn't about just getting in and getting crucified by Boston or getting crucified by the Rangers. I don't think that's going to change the trajectory of this franchise. Now, you bring up something totally different. If there is an issue, and I don't know, I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to make any kind of thing. But to your point, if this did happen and he laid into those guys, that tells me that there's an issue. That tells me that, okay, he's seeing something or hearing something from inside, the sanctity of the room that he doesn't like. To me, it's not about, okay, well, golly gee, let's get in the playoffs and get smoked by the Bees or smoked by the Rangers. It's, okay, is this guy the guy that's going to take us that next step? And that's the $1 million question right now.
Okay, fair enough. However, a couple of things.
Yeah.
First of all, if you want to make this sustainable, and this is what we've talked about on the podcast before, don't want to just do it for 1 year. You want to make it a sustained possibility. every single year you're making the playoffs and threatening for the Stanley Cup. It's got to start sometime. When is it? If it's not this year, what makes us think it's going to be next year or the year after or the year after that? So it's got to start sometime. That's number one. Number two, who knows if they're going to get smoked? I would have thought Boston would have smoked Florida a year ago. I would have thought, and Detroit played the Rangers really tough. You and I talked about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
They played the Rangers pretty tough. I know it's different when the postseason comes. You can't just carry over certain types of success or even grit into the postseason. But you just never know in hockey. This is not, I was going to say basketball, but I mean, the Heat proved that last. But we see it on a pretty regular basis where teams are upstaging another team as a lower seed compared to a 1 seed. I don't care. It's got to start sometime. Give us the chance to play the Rangers or the Bruins and see what they're, and then measure them. But I'd much rather be in that situation, getting quote unquote smoked by the Rangers or Boston than not getting in at all and watching somebody else have it happen. Because next year, maybe you use that learning experience for certain players, Lucas Raymond, Mo Sider, that allows them to progress even more and make a bigger jump next season.
That's what it's about. I mean, I think we're watching a jump in Lucas Raymond right now. I do. I think what you've seen him do, what you saw him do last night, your big time players have to be the best in the big time. And watching that guy step up last night, and by the way, I'm going to say it again, and if you guys want to make fun of me and say that I've made love to Sidney Crosby, you go right ahead. That guy is sick. He is generational. That is a term that is thrown around way too much today, but I have no problem throwing it around for Sidney Crosby. He is absolutely, Shep, I'm sorry. I love watching that guy play. I absolutely love it. Guys, he's 36 years old, man. He's going to be 37 this summer. I mean, for him to get it done the way he does and 1,000 assists, it's unbelievable. Let me get some, and boy, there are a lot of good comments in here. 2 years to get the books in order, still paying Abdelkader. COVID bad, last 2 picks from Holland.
Well, wait, how much are they paying Abdelkader?
I don't know right off the top of my head.
I don't think it's a lot of money. Did that prevent them from doing something that I'm unaware of? I mean, they bring in Kane, they sign some free agents. I don't know the reason behind a statement like that and how that's prevented this team from making the playoffs. I don't get that.
Mario said, I don't think the Bond villain has it in him to be a good coach. Seems like a bit of a pushover.
We don't know that. I mean, I think there's too many times. Sorry to interrupt, Sean. I think there's too many times we view coaches based on an interview on TNT in between the second and third period, or a cutaway shot by a camera crew. I haven't been to their practices, and I'm sure as hell not in that room on a regular basis to hear what he says to players. Here's what I would gauge. Do you think this team plays, for the most part, pretty damn hard? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Then there is a problem.
I don't know how anybody could say yes.
I thought they played really hard against Washington. Okay. I thought they played really hard against the Rangers.
You see them turn it on. It isn't consistent. It isn't consistent. And here, the Buffalo example last week is perfect. There was a 10-minute period where they absolutely owned that game. And I was going, holy crap, where did this come from? But then they have the lulls. They were all over the Capitals. We were just talking about that earlier, Shep. Yeah. And they were all over the Capitals, and the Capitals were just kind of sitting back going, okay, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to block your shots. We're going to hold on. We're going to ride this storm out. And then boom, boom, the Capitals go and get a couple goals. I think it's been too shoddy. If we're being honest, I think it's been too shoddy. Now, is that a byproduct of Coach Lalonde? Is that a byproduct of youth? Is that a byproduct of they definitely need more sandpaper? I don't care who you are not watching this team if you can't tell that they need more sandpaper. Yeah. It could be a combination of things, but I want to be crystal clear. I'm not laying that necessarily at the feet of the coach specifically, but
Fair enough.
If you're watching, like, come on, you guys watch the Red. That is not a team that goes 60 minutes a game. Nobody can say that. It comes in lulls. You know what I mean?
That's fair enough. But I've always been a big believer. We are so focused and critical, and rightfully so, of home teams. You are unlike many where you're watching every team pretty much on a regular basis. There was a time earlier this year where Washington was in a hole and they weren't playing real hard. Don't tell me that Pittsburgh has played 60 minutes for every single game this year.
They were dead a month ago. A month ago, they were dead. Really?
There you go. There you go. I see teams, even Boston, I've seen them play games where they haven't looked all that special. Tampa, this happens. Okay. I'm not saying it's acceptable. I'm just telling you it happens for every team in probably just about every single league that has these long extended seasons, 82 games, 162. You're not getting that. I think for the most part, from what I've watched, is there more there? What's the balance, Sean, between playing hard and they haven't, or the talent or the lack thereof? Is the reason they're losing games a lack of talent or a lack of grit / playing hard? That's what we would probably have to measure first and foremost. Either way, I don't think it escapes the fact that this team is, granted in a playoff hunt, but should be more, at least higher in the standings, I think, than where they are.
You know what? I think there are a couple of variables. Tim brings up one. I want to get to this. Team defense is lacking. Half the defensive core is lacking, as is the goaltending. He brought guys in to be the, quote, adults in the room, and they have NTC in term. The adults aren't showing how to win. Tim, I think that is such a great comment across the board, and I want to pick each one apart. Defensively, this team is struggling. Period. End of story. I don't need to say anything more than that. I don't think anybody... something that I talked about months ago, Alex Lyon, okay? A couple months ago, by far, he was their MVP, okay? What you did is you asked a guy to provide more than he's capable of. If you remember, he was the boost of energy. He was like that 5-hour energy drink last year. Yeah. Florida pounded the 5-hour energy drink. Alex Lyon helped get them in the playoffs. But if you remember, Bob came in and did Bob things to get them all the way to the Stanley Cup. So that's a huge factor. Shep, I think you'll know this. You can't put a price tag on what Tim said. Going and getting guys that maybe you look at it and you go, why the hell did Steve Yzerman bring this in? It's so much more than what he's going to provide on the score sheet. It's what he might provide in the room. Glue guys. To me, sometimes I think people, of course, we all love shiny things. Okay. Ooh, let's go get Patrick Kane. Like, remember all those days that we would do the trade deadline shows, right? Yeah. And gosh, there were so many years. Okay, I'll take one Chelios. I think I'm going to go get a Wendell Clark. And, there are all these beautiful shiny things and stuff. Shep, half the time it's getting that guy that's going to come in here and fit hand in glove and is going to help out in so many different ways because he's a guy that's been there and done that. And I know a lot of people have been hard on Jeff Petrie, okay? Mm-hmm. Jeff Petrie is a character guy. That is a guy that is a quality human being like his father, and I'm not kissing his ass because he's a buddy of yours, Shep. Find me a human being that thinks that Dan Petrie's a bad guy. Just quality people. And Jeff Petrie's a guy that a couple of years ago was a huge part of why the Habs made that still nonsensical loony run to the Stanley Cup final.
But every player loses it at some point.
No question.
And I think that's what Red Wing fans are probably most concerned about. I love the pickup. I mean, when they picked him up, I've wanted him for the last few years, and it has nothing to do with Dan. I just think he's a really good defenseman. But everybody would have to admit, great character guy or not, he has not been a strong addition to this team, unfortunately. And I root for him probably as much, if not more, than any other player on this team. Do you think Edvinson's has provided something that this team has lacked and has proven that he is he so we talk about top 6 forwards, is he a top 2 defensive pairing defenseman?
It is funny that you say that. I had this conversation with my buddy Mike as we watch the games quite a bit together. Like so many other people in this town, I mean, Shep, you and I could have fun with names of the past. I mean, this defenseman was going to win 4 Norris trophies. That I think people have put him on a pedestal that he doesn't necessarily deserve to be on. That's not his fault.
Yeah.
I will take him on my team, no problem. Is he a quote unquote future Norris guy? I don't think so. I don't. Now, Mo
But if
Seider,
he's a top 4 guy, you're okay with that.
1,000%.
And quite honestly, he needs to be. When you're drafted where he was drafted, he needs to be. I will tell you this. I had a long conversation one time with Mike Babcock. And you remember Brad Stewart.
Yeah.
And Brad Stewart was 3rd defenseman on the wings. 2nd line pairing, but the 3rd defenseman. And I remember saying to Babcock, this guy's playing so well for you right now. Why don't you put him on the top line? He said, because some guys are just meant to be in certain spots to give them their types of success.
Yep.
If you suddenly make him a 1 or a 2, he gets exposed. What'd you say about Alex Lyon? So when you talked about Alex Lyon, that's the first thing that came to mind. Brad Stewart, at the time with the Red Wings, was perfectly situated as the 2nd pairing and a number 3 defenseman. Leave him there.
Yep.
Let him have his success. It's kind of like a guy in the lineup. Sean's favorite player is Akil Baddoo. Why bat him cleanup when he's a number 9 hitter? If he has success there, leave him there. People always want to go, let's just pull him up. Look at how well he's doing. No. Maybe he's good there. Maybe he's putting up good numbers because that's where he's best at. So just leave him there.
Can we leave him in Toledo? I think if we're talking about leaving him anywhere, can we please? Like, enough. Stop it.
Pretty sure that's where he is.
Shep, that is what you just said. The Detroit Lions are a franchise that for a long time was asking somebody to be something that they aren't.
Absolutely.
And it was such a big problem. It was head scratching. You'd pull hair out of your head. You cannot ask somebody to be something that they aren't. And I think especially when you're talking about professional athletes, when you're younger, is there a period of development? I think Mo Seider is still developing. I think that Lucas Raymond is developing in front of our eyes. I think that Mo can become that in the conversation for a Norris trophy. I really do. But when you're talking about veterans, okay, you can't ask a guy to be something that they aren't. Every now and again, he might be able to provide that for you. Hey, dude, we're up against it. Can you do this? Can you do that? I talked to Matthew Dandino a few weeks ago. Do you remember the whole, we're gonna put you back on defense? And Dandino started laughing. He goes, I never played defense in my whole life. I never, ever played defense in my whole life. He goes, but here are my choices. I can be on the Black Aces, or I can go play some defense. And he goes, oh, yeah, sure, Scotty, no problem, whatever you need and everything. And I mean, the Sergei Fedorov thing. And how good was Fedorov when he went back on the blue line? I mean, it was insane when you think about it. So there are always exceptions to the rules. But no, Shep, I think you bring up a great point that you can't ask somebody to be something that they aren't. Period. End of story. You know? Let me get some of these comments. Chris said, next year is when my expectations increase. They were exactly where I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. Nathan said, we've seen it happen to us as Wings fans, President Trophy, then first round exit.
Yeah, I said it.
Tim said, boy, Jamie Baker, the experience helped Michigan go from being happy to being one of the big four to winning the last game. Blake said it's all about knowing your role, kind of like learning the title and respecting the hierarchy. I'm gonna have to tell you that. I'm gonna have to tell you about that.
See, I love the David. David, you're reading my mind. I was just about to bring this up. Moneyball movie, David Justice part. I don't know if it's true or not, but we all have seen the movie. It's a pretty good movie, I think, for the most part. Yeah. Brad Pitt is talking to David Justice in the batting cage. No. The Yankees are paying half your salary to play against them. Let's just be honest with what we both want out of this relationship. I want the last ounce of baseball in you. You need to be a leader. Show the guys, And then he talks to Scotty Hatteberg while he's, eating Lucky Charms and saying, "Hey, man, how you feeling? You ready?" And, "Oh, man, what's your biggest fear?" The ball hitting my way. It's what's the expectation?
Yeah.
Certain character guys. He became a character guy for Oakland, even though he wasn't in Cleveland and New York and other places. It's a really, really good comment right there.
Blake said draft day with Kevin Costner. What about Millen ball with Matt Millen? I think that's a life lesson that everybody can learn from.
That's dodgeball and then Millen ball. And then I would say, can I follow that up with Stan Van Gundy ball? Since Stan Van Gundy was the equal, if not worse, than Matt Millen was at his job.
But he was so funny, Shep. He's
just a great guy,
funny guy, man. And his tweets, I mean, they're just funny.
Can I say one more thing about Stan Van Gundy, who
Yes.
I've really never liked? You know what bothered me about him? And this is so probably petty. You make millions of dollars and you're buying sport coats off the rack where it's hanging over your sleeve or hanging over your palm. Go in there and spend $25 and have it tailored. Just roll the cups up. It's not that hard, man. I mean, you want to wear pants, that crawl over your toes, so be it. Okay. Not many people see it. But when you're sitting here with your arms hanging down and the cuffs are crawling all the way to your knuckles, that's a bit of an issue. You look like an idiot. Oh, and by the way, can you get a decent dress shirt that isn't a button down and doesn't look like it came off the Garanimals rack at Kmart? Holy mother. It was unbelievable.
Can I tell you about our friends at Legacy? That's a great segue. All right. You want to say,
because you know why? Because these folks actually know how to dress.
And Shep, that money that you save, you can actually save some money going to these guys so you can go to the tailor and you can upgrade that, because thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance. Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm showing them my insurance coverage next week. You get your quote as well. I promise you, they are going to hook you up. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get you the right coverage put in place to properly protect you and save you some money so you can do those much needed upgrades. Van Gundy should have called them. Let's be honest. Chances are,
well, those guys got nice shirts on. I mean, those shirts are so much nicer than what Stan Van Gundy used to wear. Holy mother of God.
Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit LegacyPartnersINS.com to get started with your new quotes.
How about Nathan? Nathan, form an effing wall. Okay, Nathan. Yeah, that was a great line, but that doesn't make you a good coach, and it sure as hell doesn't make you a good general manager. Chris says Patricia couldn't dress either. Yeah, there's a lot of football coaches who don't. Look at Bill Belichick. I mean, Matt Patricia's a really good example. Most of these, you think Andy Reid knows how to dress? No, but he can coach. Stan Van Gundy couldn't coach. He couldn't dress, and he sure as hell couldn't evaluate talent.
Can I, you know what, Chris, you brought something up, and I want to ask you something, Shep. There have been some divisive people in town, okay? And a lot of people that people don't like. And did you get to know Matt Patricia at all? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I really liked Matt Patricia, and I openly admit it. Now let me say this in fairness. He didn't live too far from me, and I saw him in town quite a bit. I found him to be just a really nice guy, especially away from football, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In my conversations with him, he was very cordial, very personable, had a good personality. The thing that bothered me about Matt Patricia, besides the obvious, were the little things. Like when players started coming out and telling them how late he was to certain things, that's a fact. I mean, he did not have as much respect for other people's time as he should have. And I don't think he treated players the way you expect to treat players.
100%.
And so those are part of his downfall. Bob Quinn, not unlike that. You got to be real careful, I think, when you go to a place and basically tell people through your actions and your demeanor, I'm the smartest guy in the room.
100%.
If you get it done, I suppose people can look past it, but there's a part of them that also, when it fails, they're going to be there to say, well, you're not so smart now. So it's just, I think humility is a really good recipe for anybody to have success. Now, speaking of the Lions, I wanted to get your thoughts on this before we left.
All right.
Jared Goff came out and said some pretty scathing things. I think Jared Goff is dead on. And in case people missed it, Jared Goff basically said, a lot of people in Detroit they just kind of pounce on the negativity. Now, this could be different in other markets. I don't know, Sean. I mean, we've got a lot of friends throughout the country. I think what you and I used to do in sports talk radio, it's really easy to be negative. Probably the easiest thing to do. I used to say this all the time when you and I worked together. Monday mornings, I truly believe there are certain hosts in the market who wish the Lions would lose because it makes their Mondays so damn easy.
No doubt in my mind.
All you got to do is say a phone number and it gets lit up. My day's done. I can, for 3 hours, just listen to people bitch, right? I think Jared Goff is right. I think he's absolutely right. And maybe it's because this area has been so used to a feeble professional football product that it has forced people to be negative. But when the positivity is there, I can't understand how people can't appreciate it.
Shep, Blake and I talked about this ad nauseum last night, and I'm going to say the exact same thing that I said last night. Jared Goff has a point. There's no doubt about that. And this goes back to something that I have said forever, and I've had this conversation with athletes. I've had this conversation with coaches. Listen, if you play well, it is incumbent upon me to say that you play well. It is. I am not doing my job unless I say, hey, you played well. I am not a hater. I don't have anything against you personally if you don't play well. And the problem that I have with Jared Goff, okay, is not what he said. Because you were looking for things if you wanted to pick apart the Lions last year. You were making a concerted effort to be that guy, okay? And when I say my problem with Jared Goff, it's not Jared Goff specifically. It was a lot of people in this town. And this town has an ability to tell you didn't see what you saw.
Right.
There's like this ability to tell you
100%.
You did not see what. Listen to me. I am one of those guys, and I said this last night. For the 1,397th time, I was wrong about Jared Goff. And for some reason, people in this business have a problem with those three words. I was wrong.
Amen.
I would like to believe I've never been that guy. I would like to believe I'm the first. I was wrong about Jared Goff. He exceeded every expectation. I didn't think he'd be the man, all of it. I got that out of the way. However, okay, when I had to waste months talking to people about how awful he was, his last, remaining time with the Rams in that first year here, okay?
Yeah.
If I can acknowledge, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. I was wrong. My bad. The flip side to that is, why are you telling me the guy wasn't bad when literally everything that you can judge him by said that he was bad? And I think what happens is, Shep, you get into that routine where now all these people are going, see, they got the chest way out going, see, I told you this guy wasn't bad. You're not wrong, but he was bad in his last year with the Rams. He was bad in his first year with the Lions. And so I think that's what the issue is.
But he was also good with the Rams too. But you've acknowledged that too.
That. Absolutely. No question.
I say this to my kids all the time. There are 2 phrases and 6 words that are the toughest things to say. And you've already said one of them. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I am sorry.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
those are two phrases that are really tough for people to say, because in order for you to admit you're wrong, what usually people want to do is dig their heels in and say, just wait.
Yeah.
And then they can pick it apart.
Yeah.
So in other words, in Jared Goff, oh man, he threw 4 touchdowns. See, you were wrong. We'll see. We'll see. And then when he throws 3 picks, see, they're quick to announce that.
Yeah.
That's why patience is so hard, right? I mean, I was talking to Dwayne Casey last night at LCA. He used the word patience, and I cringed right away. And I cringed because, holy mother, at what point does patience wear out? A,
1000%.
and B, how many teams have told us this? Tigers have told us this. Red Wings have told us this. Pistons have told us this.
I think in particular, Shep, the Detroit Lions, the last word a Lion fan wants to hear is patience. That is the last word. And everything that Brad Holmes did, going back to the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff deal, was screaming patience at everybody. Mm-hmm. And nobody wanted to hear it. And Shep, for the first time, I'm serious, for the first time in my life, I go, oh my gosh, I think this guy has a plan. Mm-hmm. And then think became reality when you saw him put together this roster and do something that no other general manager had really done here, and that's nail drafts and nail talent and shut all the losers up like me who watch all this draft stuff and immerse themselves in it and go, well, why are you taking this guy there? And why are you taking that guy there? Shut people up by his actions, not telling people what he was going to do, but actual actions. And then, of course, the biggest action of all was having the season that they did last year.
Yeah, dead on for sure. And all that. The problem with that philosophy, even though it's the right one, is that when we'll bitch about taking Jahmyr Gibbs, or you want to complain about taking a tight end early in a draft, you'll have that. You'll stick your chest out. You'll have all training camp to talk about it. And not until weeks, 13 or 14 do you recognize, man, maybe I was wrong, and you've moved on to something else.
Yeah.
You can't really say whether you were right or wrong right away. You just want to spew, this is not the philosophy I think they should be taking, because tight ends are not really that important. Well, actually, they are. They're really important. This league has become not just a passing league, but a tight end type of receiving league. You've got a grade A tight end, you're going to be in really good shape. We have forgotten just how good a lot of tight ends have been and how important they have been. But whatever. I mean, it's the same thing with running backs. The Gibbs pick, how many people were just all over Killed it. And then by the end of the year, how many people are going, this guy's rookie of the year. He should be rookie of the year.
You let 2 running backs go, okay, 2, and then you went 2 for 2. Their replacements, cheaper, by the way, okay?
Yeah, right.
Nailed it. I mean, if you have any doubts in Brad Holmes, it's not Brad Holmes' fault. I'll leave it at that. I got to bring up a great example of something that you just talked about. I'm going to bring up John Joseph Harrington in just a second, okay? And I love John Joseph Harrington. It just, and that's a guy that just gets it. He just.
That's why people are just eating out of the palm of his hands.
Everything that happened here, none of it was his fault. Just ask him. He'll be the first to tell you.
My hope is that every organization says to their players when they bring him in, just act like Joey. You'll be fine.
Let me tell you about our friends out here in Northville. It's Wealth Advantage. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further.
See Stan Van Gundy? That's how you dress. Right there.
Brothers. There they are. Mike Cusack, Jeff Cusack, the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by 2 brothers, those handsome fellas with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 years. The investment world is a complex one, and if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, I think it's time to call my friends Call the experts. Reach out to Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or view their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Shep, you brought up something. It makes me laugh so hard because the dig the heels in thing, right? Okay. And they're going to take a small sample size and try to make it speak for the large. How many people hung on to Darko Milicic? See, he wasn't a bust. He'd come off the bench and put up these big numbers one time. What do you got to say now? And you'd go, are you kidding me? Do you remember when Joey Harrington came here as a member of the Dolphins and he lit up a bad football team on Thanksgiving? I think 3 touchdowns, whatever it was. I'll never forget doing the post-game show that day, and there were literally dozens of people that called in and said, you owe Joey Harrington an apology. You always say that if you're wrong about something, you're going to say he's sorry. And I go, guys, you're not going to get it. Like, he had a good game against a bad team.
Yeah.
Okay. He's an NFLer, and it's going to happen. You know, you're going to see the ebbs and flows. 2 weeks later, the man lost his job to something called Cleo Lemon, and we never heard from him again. Right? Granted, we never heard from whatever a Cleo Lemon is again either. But that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I think we're in this day and age now where somebody, Shep, I remember what you said about this guy. Well, what do you have to say now? He had a good game. What do you want from me? But I think that's where we're at right now. This desire to say I'm right and you're dumb is really absurd.
For sure. And my favorite part of that rant, my favorite part was, I'll never forget how many times did we play that game back in the day. And speaking of that, back in the day, we should do something like that.
You are the master of the segue. I'm telling you.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget. People would say that, in case people don't know, when Sean hosted the show, people would say that and he'd go, he'd lean back in the chair like this. I'll never forget.
See, I want to go all Don Cherry now with that segue. Listen, you kids out there, my guy Shep, see? No, wait a second. My guy Shep is the king of the segues. Put her there, Shep. That was an unbelievable segue.
That's excellent.
That was an unbelievable segue, Shep, because, Shep and I were talking about it. And for those of you that didn't see it, I put out this thread saying that Shep and I are going to start this series of shows where we are going to talk about I guess the best way to say it is looking back at WDFN. Yeah. It really was a special place. Shep, after you brought that up to me, I was kind of thinking about it. I think Stoney was there the longest. He was there almost or over 14 and a half years.
Yeah, I think saw him last night, so I didn't bring it up to him, but okay.
Wojo and Jamie were a little bit behind him because Wojo started later, and then Jamie left. If you remember, like the fall before we all got laid off or whatever the hell that was called.
Wait, we got laid off,
and then they brought us back. Remember?
Yeah, and then we got laid off again.
I walked away from that. It was funny because some people were like, after when Killer passed, and some people were like, "Dude, you got canned." I go, "No, I didn't. I walked away." That was one time I kind of had enough. It had run its course and gave a tip of the cap. But I was there. Gosh, it's unbelievable, Shep. I was there almost 12 and a half years. It's incredible when you think about it. And how you were there probably not much shorter than that, right?
I don't remember how long I was there, quite honestly. I just know, I was there a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. But it was a very unique place to work.
It really was.
And the reason it was is because it truly felt like a fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never in a frat in college, but it felt like it's one of the few places where I've gone to quote unquote work and just enjoyed talking with friends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as close as I can get to it. It was just friendships.
Yeah.
Guys just shooting the shit about sports. And it was beautiful. And what I think made it even more beautiful is the fact that usually when you and I are talking with friends, because we're in the business, we have certain knowledge about situations that give us a different perspective, and perhaps a perspective that not many other people share. This was different. because you could bring up that perspective and the other person has a pretty similar perspective, but a different opinion.
Right.
And so you had to listen to them. So it's going to be really fun to go back into that. And I think I will tell you this, it was more impactful than any of us realized.
1000%.
It really was. I have worked with a number of people in television in this market who have said, I used to listen to you guys religiously.
Yeah.
You were it for me. And you really kind of helped create a passion for sports in this town for me. It's one of the bigger compliments you can receive. So
Oh
I'm
my
really excited
goodness.
that we're going to do this. Yeah.
No, it's so much fun. And, Mario said WDFN was my introduction to sports talk radio. I'll never forget the memories of driving in my car with my dad, listening to it. Chris said, listen to Sean in Toledo and Detroit. Chris, to your point, when Greg Henson asked me to come work at WDFN, I shit you not, I was ecstatic for the reasons that you just said, Shep, seriously, because when WDFN came on the air, I was still in school. And I listened to that station thinking to myself, man, how cool would it be to work for that station one day?
Yes. Yeah.
And a few years later, in typical Greg Henson, this is a true story, typical Greg Henson, I meet Henson on opening day 98 or 99. I don't remember, all the damn years run together. And he walks up to me. He's like, hey, you're that guy that's doing shows at the weekend on WJR. I go, yeah. And he goes, what the bleep are you doing over there? Kind of caught me off guard. I'm looking around and everything. And I think he knew he caught me off guard. He goes, why don't you come and work at the Fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really, that's as simple as it was. And I agree with you, Shep. It was, and boy, so many great memories that people posted on the thread when I said we were going to do something like this. And we didn't realize how good we had it. And when you think about, how good the ratings were and everything, it was a special
Management
time.
didn't realize how good they had it either, though. Okay. It's
Listen,
not just,
we're going to bring
just
that
people.
Up. I'm going to bring, I had that conversation with Doug Todd yesterday. I'm going to bring it up. Oh yeah. I'm not going to mention any names, but
there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to it because still talking to these guys and getting some memories and maybe some tales that not many people have heard before. And we can do it on more than one occasion. We can do it with a number of different personalities, catch up with them, see how they're doing, but also the impact that place had. It's not just on fans like, 6 Foot Goods who sent it in and his father, but it was on us too. So it was, I'll never forget. I remember, never forget. I was at the station one day and I came home and my wife said, how'd it go? And I said, I got to be honest with you. If we were to get married today, a lot of those guys would be in my wedding now. That's how I felt about it. Things change a little bit. We've lost Jamie, which hurts to this day. Some of those guys aren't necessarily as close to me as I thought they would be, but that's okay. But it still was a great time in my life, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have some fun with that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes you don't keep in touch with people as much as you'd like to. I think there are some people that, I wish I would have done a better job of keeping in touch with them. And quite frankly, I have no problem saying it. There are some people that I don't care to keep in touch with.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have
it's a two-way street, man. I mean, it's not just you keeping in touch with them.
Anybody that's sorry, that's just my convictions. I don't, but there are some people that it's like, hey, best of luck to you. You can stay over there. I'll stay over here. And Chris, and now the inauguration of Barack Obama, then everyone got laid off. Yeah, that was my magic words. Shep, you know what's funny though? If I may, there's one thing, and I'm going to talk to one guy in particular because I've heard him say it a few times, and I'm not going to mention his name because I'll say it to him if he comes on. It's always funny. I've heard people say that the station died when the inauguration happened. And I think that is very disrespectful to the work that you and the late Drew Sharp and Ryan Ermani and Rico Beard and Killer and I did when we brought the station back. I really do. And I'll tell you why. Obviously it was different, but I can tell you this in the afternoon, and I was never a guy that ever and I hope you could vouch for this. I never stuck out my chest and talked about the ratings and things like that. The people that need to know. And we did very well in the afternoon, better than some other shows too. So I don't know. I always kind of took that as offense when I heard somebody kind of throw that narrative when the stage. Shep, I think for a couple years there, I think we did a pretty good job of keeping that legacy going.
Yeah, and I think this market needs it, quite honestly. I mean, I think the market misses something like that. I think it's great to have competition.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah. And it's not going to happen.
In everything. Right. Agreed.
No, it's not. Nobody's going to take a chance. There's no doubt about that. All right. One more thing before we get out of here. Let's talk about our friend, Lindsay Broadwell. Look, if you are looking to buy or sell or both, it is imperative that you find the right agent. I got one for you. That young lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville. She's expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan, and it is indeed a team. She's an expert in all facets of the business. When it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com, and she will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, you got anything going on this weekend?
No, I don't.
Good for you.
I wish I did, but I don't.
All right. Well, yeah, there's that too. You want to come over to a barbecue tomorrow? You're more than welcome. I'm barbecuing tomorrow. So
actually, I do have to work tomorrow, but it's out your way. So be careful.
Okay.
Be careful and the invite.
Pop over. I'm like literally Blake hates me and refuses to show up. Todd said he's never going to come in my house, but hockey's on all day. So literally 12:30 until whenever we're done. I have a bunch of things going on. And Chris,
yes, you can come over and eat my meat.
You can come over and eat my meat. Wouldn't be the first time. Shep, always a pleasure. I'll talk to you next
brother.
Have a great weekend. All the best.
Tell Kristen I said hello. All right, see you, buddy.
You got it, buddy. We'll see you. Todd, Blake, see you.